Seems like we're getting more Far Cry content very soon. Sony is quietly planning their huge push into a new type of genre for them. And we got more leaks that happened very recently and reveal big future announcements. So I don't to go over. Of course, if you like these big rumor and news roundup videos, then leaving a like would really help me out. And subscribe because I'm posting a new video like this every Sunday. I wanted to bring these monthly giveaways back for an upcoming game of your choice on your platform of choice. So we're now in October. Let's start the October giveaway. You can enter via the link in the pinned comment. And be sure you are a subscriber of the channel if you want to participate. Beyond God of War Ragnarok, we really don't know what the other PlayStation exclusives are that we can expect from Sony's own first-party studios. Only Insomniac put some of their cards on the table with Marvel Spider-Man 2, likely for the end of 2023, and Wolverine, that I expect 1 or 2 years after that. Now sure, we got PlayStation VR 2 in early 2023 with the Horizon game that continues to look like a ton of fun, but in terms of announced big PS5 games, that is kinda it. We do get some leaks and rumors though regarding what is happening behind the scenes, with now the God of War PC port studio saying that it's working with Sony on a flagship live service game. With this studio, Jetpack Interactive, also noting that they're working directly with Sony to develop one of its flagship IPs within its much anticipated live service games portfolio. Michael, who works at the studio on LinkedIn, notes that we've been helping Sony out with their God of War games and they liked us so much, we're stepping up for another completely different project. So no, it's not a multiplayer God of War game from the sounds of it. They of course tried that before in Ascension and it did not really work out, although it did have some interesting ideas. And of course a God of War multiplayer experience would look completely different now, and I would be down for it. I think the gameplay mechanics and the enemies are really awesome, and it's kind of sad that at one point you reach the end of the game. Like, I would not mind separate co-op levels where we can beat up these targets again with a buddy who maybe then plays Thor or Tyr. And of course, again, as a separate experience from the regular story campaign. I really think it's going to be a new reality moving forward, that they will just use all the assets and mechanics that they already created, but for a separate multiplayer experience, comparable to what we saw for Ghost of Tsushima Legends. Like maybe Jetpack Interactive is helping Sucker Punch realize a bigger vision for that, although Horizon will very likely get its own multiplayer content too. There's a Twisted Metal game in the works at Sony's recently bought Firesprite Studios, who are also, by the way, working on a multiplayer shooter. Like, it really seems that the next time we get a PlayStation showcase, it will include a ton of these online games, next to, of course, hopefully a ton of single-player adventures as well. I still think there's a chance that we see a show like that, so bigger than State of Play, in 2022, as there are many things that point in that direction. We can expect a new Final Fantasy 16 trailer in October, and so far the game has only appeared at Sony shows. Silent Hill, the short message, got rated in Korea, which usually means it's real and also close, so maybe this a teaser like PT for the long rumored return of the franchise. And Helldivers 2 got leaked as well. I mean, it seems pretty obvious that Arrowhead is working on the sequel, looking at the recent TikTok, which included many mentions of the game. Like, you don't do this if you have nothing in the works. A gameplay clip actually leaked as well before Sony rapidly pulled it down. And this game was of course also part of the GeForce Now leak that has been right many times. Helldivers 1 released in 2015 and the studio hasn't made a game since. Like, I really would not be surprised if this is one of the live service games Sony has planned for before April 2023. And MLB The Show is, by the way, not included here. So there's also another title next to Helldivers 2 that we don't know about yet that should be out in the coming months. Making a big PlayStation showcase in the next few months, or hopefully weeks, even more likely, with many of the reveals being for multiplayer games, as they want 10 of these titles out by March 2026. That would of course also be the perfect time to reveal Horizon Forbidden West DLC. So many possibilities, and speaking of DLC for a recently released game, it seems like we will be getting a Far Cry 6 expansion. A Journamenti Lumia on Twitter namely posted this image for a Game of the Year upgrade pass for Far Cry 6, which was uploaded uploaded to the Xbox database. I was able to snap a screenshot right in time because if we look at the tweet now, we see that Ubisoft claimed it, making it also more likely that this is going to happen. So yes, the Season Pass content, where we played the 3 previous villains, is already out, and we already know what the Ultimate Pack included, but that expansion is completely new, with Lumia saying that it should be called Lost Between Worlds. And if you have been following the channel for a while, then you of course know that I've been saying for the longest time that a vaas game in the Far Cry 6 world just seems very likely, and looking at the post-credit scene for the vaas Season Pass DLC, he kinda seems pretty lost between worlds, talking to his new tennis ball friend. We also have the actor behind vaas, Michael Mondo, teased that for one, he isn't done with the character, but also that he would be interested in pulling back a little bit, going back and trying to see how he got there. Kind of like an origin story would be fascinating. Which you could also link to Lost Between Worlds, where we follow his life in the current day in Yara, as he was also spotted at the bar at the end of the Stranger Things mission, but that he still struggles with his past as well, which we also get to explore. And in that same Game Bible interview, he also notes that he has another story that he's developing that would take place with the vaas we know now, but on a huge international scale. Like sure, you can take Lost Between Worlds more literal in that we have multiple maps to explore, but I don't expect that, especially because it seems to be branded as a Far Cry 6 DLC, which overall interesting because they usually just call them new games like Primal and New Dawn, even though they were of course on the same map as the mainline title that launched 1 year before it. Like this approach seems more similar to the Dawn of Ragnarok DLC for Valhalla, which was a big expansion outside of the Season Pass, and with there being an upgrade pass, I would not be shocked if the Far Cry 6 main game is required to play this potential vaas DLC. Of course, that it's focused on vaas is still my prediction. I went way more in depth on that in the video I linked to you many times. Maybe you already watched it, otherwise I put it in the video description. Like all we know right now is that there seems to be an expansion for Far Cry 6 coming. It could also be just more of Danny but on a new map. At least Juan Cortez seems to be back as he was recording new lines in June of this year. But I just don't think that a new island but with the same Far Cry 6 gameplay would appeal to many people, while bringing vaas back totally would. Kind of similar to how they brought back Aiden Pierce with the Watch Dogs Legion Bloodline DLC. And then this expansion with vaas could also boost the overall Far Cry 6 sales, which haven't been as strong as previous releases. We will find out soon enough, with Lumia now saying that we should get more info on October 6th. I will of course keep you posted here. Now your theories are more than welcome in the comments down below. Like a launch this year would be perfect, especially because it's the 10-year anniversary of Far Cry 3 on November 29th, 2022. And also because Ubisoft's big holiday title has been delayed to March 9th. November 8th was never a smart date for Skull and Bones because of the insane amount of competition in that week alone. And if these extra 4 months mean that it can be a more complete package at release, then it's only for the best. According to one source, to Kotaku, who was involved in a recent playtest, they noted that the gameplay was more refined than in previous tests, but overall player progression still seemed shallow, which is crazy to think about because the game has been in the works for like 8 years at this point. Like, I still think that Skull and Bones won't be a hit, but this delay at least gives them a higher chance of succeeding, even though that chance is still pretty low. Also real quick, Ubisoft is trying another live service, probably free-to-play game called Project U, which explores a new concept of session-based co-op shooter where many players unite to prevail against an overwhelming threat. We only have this art so far, but yeah, it looks like your typical hero shooter, although this seems to be against AI instead of each other. There is a PC test happening soon in Europe, and I will leave a link if you want to participate in the video description. Also reported by Tom Henderson at Insider Gamer is the new Need for Speed game called Unbound, with a release date of December 2nd, 2022. The 1.30 minute reveal trailer should go live any day now. The game is only coming to current gen consoles and PC. It should be set in a fictionalized version of Chicago called Lakeshore City, with a bigger focus on multiplayer. Not really a game for me, but yeah, it is a big announcement that will happen in the next few days. Subscribe for way more of these leak and news roundup videos that I aim to do every Sunday. Sometimes I'm, for example, busy with content for newly released games. That will probably happen with God of War and Gotham Knights, but I will then keep you posted in the community tab if there's like no Sunday video. So you can look there if you want to be updated. We also had some things like moving behind the scenes. We had an office, for example. We didn't really go to that. Working from home is fine for us. So I spent a ton of time like fixing that behind the scenes. It's luckily behind me now, so I can focus more on the content. And I think this will be the format for the Sunday video going forward. So a few big leak news stories that I will go more in depth on. Timestamps, of course, always in the video bar. And then a few sort of real quick hits that I want to like quickly discuss as well. Your input, as always, welcome in the comments down below. A like would really be appreciated. And check out my previous video on Ubisoft with some changes that are happening behind the scenes there by clicking on the screen. I will speak to you soon. Goodbye.